What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Friday edition of the NBA Injury Analysis Show. I'm Mike Gallagher. I am hosting. Dink is grinding the projections for this insane slate. It's just bananas. I can't stand it. These big slates. It's been nice having some off time. Fan, have you been enjoying the in-season tournament and some light slates here? How's the week been for you?
It's been great, man. Some light days, some days to recharge a little bit. It feels like early All-Star break coming here. And yeah, glad to be back on the show. And parents are out of town, so just the kids to run the show today. And we might go hour and a half. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna do that. I gotta get back into the minute streets. I'm still a little bit behind there, but yeah, this is just insane, man. But yeah, let's start with the news that we got already. It's with the Hawks. Trae Young's not gonna play today with an illness, so obviously DeJounte is gonna get all he can eat. Big spread here. It's like 10 now. How do you expect the Hawks to handle the no Trae situation?
Yeah, we'll see Bogdanovic step in the starting lineup, and then we'll see some AJ Griffin and Trent Forrest back on the rotation, providing some guard depth. But yeah, we saw Trae miss one game already, and Bogdan, the underlying stats were really good. 34 minutes, 24% usage rate, was second among all starters. We'll mention Sadiq Bey too. Really interesting for him. This is a team against the Sixers where they're getting smoked in transition. He leads the Hawks in fast break points per game, so he should be in a beneficial spot as well. DeAndre Hunter, 5% usage rate bump this season with Trae and Jalen Johnson off the court. Sadiq Bey, 4% bump. So I think there's some blowout risk, obviously, like you mentioned, 9.5-point spread on the road, but a really good game environment overall if they can stay close. So in terms of like the secondary options here between Bogdan and Sadiq Bey and DeAndre Hunter, who stands out the most for you?
I mean, Bogdan, I think he's going to pick up a pretty big role. We saw him, get 30, yeah, like he'll get mid 30s minutes. We got him at 33 with a little blowout baked in, so I expect him to step up. And then, I think Sadiq Bey, they're going to play so fast. So DeJounte's in a really good spot. He just loves to play in the open floor. As you mentioned, the Sixers get killed in transition. So if they can hang, it's probably because DeJounte's cooking. We'll see Trent Forrest behind him. And then, the other thing that I wanted to note is the double big overlap. We've been seeing it kind of every game now, even against we saw it a little bit against the Bucks. It was 9 minutes. We saw 3 minutes against the Cavs, and we've seen it like every game now. And I've been like clamoring for this for so long. Is Onyeka Okongwu, my guy, your original guy, picking up some minutes, and Capella's showing a minute stealing now. So as bad as or as daunting as a matchup as Joel Embiid is for foul risk, they've been kind of getting smashed around the basket. So, if Capella and Okongwu could avoid fouls, I think they're in kind of sneaky good spots here.
Yeah, I think we'll kind of continue to see that too, because like all the depth that the Hawks have right now is at like 2-3, right? They don't really have front court depth. Okongwu is really only the only big. They have the Matthews guys. They have AJ Griffin, Trent Forrest, and they haven't really been playing AJ Griffin that much. So I think we'll continue to see this overlap between Capella and Okongwu moving forward.
Yeah, how bad is if AJ Griffin doesn't play? Like how bad of down bad is he? Like insurmountable amount. So let's go to the 76ers here. We saw Kelly Oubre Jr. return, come off the bench. Nick Nurse mentioned that he was a little bit rusty in the first half, kind of gave him a quicker hook, but he said that he was a big reason why they had a big second half surge. So we got him at 25 minutes, still coming off the bench here. How many minutes do you think Oubre could kind of get up? Because I kind of want to bump him more. Like I think he could have like a 30, 32 ceiling. But how do you feel about Kelly Oubre Jr.'s minutes after seeing his return to the lineup?
Yeah, I think I might be a little bit more aggressive than you guys are. I think they kind of want to play him a bit more. So I'm at 26 right now. I think it's, not too far off where he gets back in the starting lineup ahead of Nick Batum potentially. So yeah, I mean, he's obviously a big part of what they do, and he looked pretty decent in his return back. Didn't look too limited. So I think 25 probably makes a little sense. I'm at a little higher, 26, like you said, but I think he should kind of continue to creep up here.
Yeah, I'm more with you. I was trying to. We had a little lower, and I was pushing to come up. So if it was like just me making projections, I'd probably be like 26 and a half. I think like 30 is just as likely as 25 is, honestly. So kind of with you there. And then the front court rotation we're seeing. What's up with this? Like I'm kind of stymied on the Morris Covington split. Like we've seen Rocco as a small ball 5. We saw Morris ahead of him. how are you? We kind of just like hedged it. Do you have any opinions on how that like kind of benchish big fits in here?
Yeah, I'm in that kind of same spot where, I've been hedging, but it looks
Mm-hmm.
like Morris is a little ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were starting him in those spot starts, which ahead of Paul Reed, which is a little confusing to me,
Yeah.
honestly. But I think they're going to kind of give him a shot to see kind of what they have in Marcus Morris if he can still play.
Mhm.
And, I think they kind of know what they have in Rocco already. So, I think for now, Morris I gave the slight edge to, but don't have a ton of conviction on that. Been a little kind of surprised at some of like Nick Nurse's decisions in these spots when they've been a little shorthanded.
Yeah, and no questionable tags, no probable tags. So keep your eyes peeled for the 76ers making some moves here. Let's go to Detroit. This is probably one of the biggest
Mhm.
slash trickiest ones on the slate. Jalen Duren's going to miss multiple weeks. Looked really bad. He can't shake this ankle thing, man. It's like LaMelo, early Steph Curry kind of ankle stuff with him. But yeah, so let me lead off here. I feel very, 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 very strongly that Isaiah Stewart's starting at the center spot, namely
Mhm.
because Monty Williams said they have to trim down their rotation quite easily. You just take those bigs away because
Mhm.
there was another quote from Monty Williams about 4 or 5 days ago saying they wanted to eventually start Bogdan at the 4, which turned out to be BS because they started him at the 3. But yeah, how do you feel? And then also Jaden Ivey, he mentioned he wants to trim his rotation and play him more minutes. Didn't sub in until the second quarter, which is insane
Yeah.
for as a guy's talented as he is. But yeah, how do you see this rotation shaking out? Do you have a feel for the starting lineup? There's also a quote about Killian Hayes Phoenix too. Cade Cunningham. So yeah, kind of a lot going on. But how do you see this rotation shaking out? And Joe Harris also coming back.
Yeah, I mean, so many moving parts here, and we saw
Yeah.
the last 5 game stretch that Jordan was out. Monty kind of mixed and matched with Marvin Bagley, and the
Mm,
Kevin Knox was in there for a couple spot starts. But I think my prediction would be Cade, Hayes, Ivy, Boyan, and Stewart get the start today, and that bench rotation is Sasser, Alec Burks, Asar Thompson, Isaiah Livers, and then some combination of Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman.
mm,
We have Stewart at the 5 for now as well.
yep.
And this is a spot where, I don't really want a whole lot to do with Detroit today. 10.5 point underdogs, pretty
Mm,
significant blowout risk here. And, I think the biggest impact on Duren isn't really me getting interested in like Bagley or Wiseman. It's me getting interested in the team that they're playing, right? And
mm-hmm.
their defense is going to drop off a cliff going from Duren to
Yep.
small ball Stewart to Bagley to Wiseman to Livers. You look at kind of the defensive rating when Duren's on the court versus when he's off. All their highest defensive rating individual players are guys like Livers and Bagley and Wiseman. Predictably, the guys that are getting the minutes when Duren is off the court, right? So I think that's probably the biggest takeaway for me is just this Pistons defense just becomes a lot more exploitable, especially around the basket for the
Yep.
2+ weeks that Duren's going to be out.
Yeah, when he was out earlier, they were giving up like 55, 60 at rim points, which is just absurd. So, and guess what? They're facing the number one rim offense today. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a field day for them. One other thing I wanted to note, James Edwards, who covers the team extremely well, he had mentioned like when Boyan, I call Boyan Bogdan so much, but so they were saying that like Livers could start with him, so that's another option. So I think
Mhm.
like Ivy's the slight favorite, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Boyan and Livers start together, and then obviously, Ivy would be the sixth man. But any thoughts there? Like I think that's kind of one. Like Ivy's the favorite, and then Livers is number 2, and then I feel I'd be shocked if they start a big man, like if they start Bagley or Weissman.
Yeah, Livers got the spot start, I think, against the Knicks, played
Yep.
27 minutes there. So he has that kind of minutes capability, that ceiling there. And yeah, I think he's like pretty firmly ahead of
Mhm.
these other bigs on the depth chart, like in Bagley and Wiseman. Like Bagley was a
Yeah.
DNPCD on Wednesday. And we saw like Wiseman and Stewart be the backup centers behind Duren, right? And so
Mhm.
I could see it. I think that's kind of along the lines of a little bit of what Monty's been hinting. I think Ivy's role has been shifting from game to game, so it wouldn't surprise me to see him go back to the bench. So could see, yeah, I think that's probably my second iteration of this lineup, and I think going like Bagley center would be my third.
Oh, what about Asar? I think Asar would be my third at this point.
Yeah.
I think he's cooked.
What's your kind of takeaway with his role on this
He's
team?
kind of I think they're done. I think like he's hurting the offense so bad that I think
Yeah.
they're not playing him big anymore now that they have Boyan back and all those guys. So I think the minute ceiling is kind of gone. So like we were saying, I'd be like mildly surprised that if he starts, but I think it's possible.
Yeah. That's fair.
Cool. Yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about those Magic. They've got another injury here. Jalen
Mhm.
Suggs was quote unquote in good spirits after an ankle sprain. The Magic, with their early injury reporting, they listed him
Yeah.
questionable. There was no doubt he was missing this game.
Yeah.
So obviously we saw Gary Harris fill in as a starter. And then obviously Powell and Franz took up huge handling roles. How do you think they start this? Do you think they just kind of slot? I think Gary Harris is starting
Yeah.
regardless. But the
Yep.
next question is, do they flip flop Anthony Black and Cole Anthony to kind of keep those minutes more secure there, get a little more playmaking? So on top of Gary Harris, do you think, and how secure do you think Anthony Black's starting spot is in this spot?
I think it's pretty secure. I think they like Cole off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
They can play Cole 31. I think he played 31 off the bench last game, if I'm remembering
Mm-hmm.
correctly.
32,
So yeah, I think it's Black Harris in that backcourt with Cole playing heavy minutes off the bench. We'll see probably some Jet Howard minutes. The first time he'll play in like over almost a month. I think November 19th was his last game action. They recalled him from the G League. He's not on the injury report anymore. So I should see him factor in a little bit. But yeah, I think, we touched on this with the Pistons talking about Duren, right? And, the Pistons go from a top 10 defense when Duren's on the court to 28th with him off the court. And this is, Paolo and Franz, nom, 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 where they're just going to eat in the paint without Duren. So those two really great spots. Obviously a little bit of blowout risk, like you mentioned. But yeah, I mean, the offense is clearly going to go through those two in the starting unit today, like both of them a lot.
Yeah, I mentioned in the matchups a couple times ago that Franz like kills the bad matchups, or
Yeah.
bad meaning good, and then
Yeah.
Powell kind of carries them when they're in the tougher spot, and that's what really happened in the Cavs game, who were a really tough matchup for the rim defense
Yeah.
there. So moving on to the Toronto Raptors, not much to note from an injury standpoint, but Darko had mentioned that they're going to secure Otto Porter Jr.'s rotation spot after getting some conditioning cleared. So who does he cut into? Does Malachi Flynn go away? Does Gary Trent Jr.'s minute stealing kind of come down? Is Chris Boucher bye-bye? How do you think Otto Porter Jr.'s minutes factor into the second unit?
Yeah, I think it'll come a lot from Chris Boucher. I think he'll play most of his minutes at the 4. Obviously, it kind of hurts collectively among the second unit guys, but yeah, I don't think we're like really interested in any of these guys to begin with, and Trent and Precious and Chris Boucher. But yeah, I think he's probably going to end up being like the number 2 bench option behind Gary Trent Jr. now. It sounds like Darko is really into him, and obviously he was sidelined for an extended period of time and had a pretty big ramp up. So if he can play, 16 to 20 minutes eventually, I think that's probably going to be around his minutes range.
Yeah, and then I'll note the beats, because they've had these horrible starts to halves. They didn't score a point for like 6.5 minutes in the third quarter. And the beats, there were like multiple questions about changing the starting lineup. Like, I don't, it was kind of odd to get that line of questioning multiple times. I mean, I guess it would be Schroeder coming out and Trent coming in to flip that, because that's kind of what we thought going in. Do you have any thoughts there? Or you think the beats are just trying to find a story for just like bad starts to quarters?
Yeah, I think that might be a little. I'm kind of wait and see for that to happen to really buy into it. I'm probably going to stick with the status quo, but yeah, I definitely noticed that, and interesting something to watch moving forward.
For sure. Moving on to the Charlotte Hornets, they have Mark Williams. He is listed as questionable with the lower back contusion. Steve Clifford mentioned he's going to be kind of hopeful that he would play here. Got ruled out pretty quick, so that's usually an ominous sign that he's going to play. And then, I mean, no doubt we were going to get huge minutes here, and we saw some 40s and all that. So any read on Mark Williams' availability and then how they would handle it? It sounds like they'd love. It sounds like PJ Washington's like coming off the bench regardless, based on the quotes from Clifford. But yeah, anything you want to add in Mark Williams in or out?
Yeah. So off that Clifford quote that you mentioned on Mark Williams, he said he got hit in the lower back, and Brooklyn got hit in the back again against Minnesota. And like you said, he said he hasn't really been able to practice that much, and hopefully he'll take Wednesday off and be ready for Friday. So I think that's that last update we got, and I didn't really see anything from shoot around on them. If he participated. So I think it's probably true 50-50. Could definitely see him missing just given how quickly he got ruled out on Wednesday. And we saw like Clifford go tight 8-man rotation, like no JT Thor at all. Just went Ish McGowan's and PJ Washington off the bench. And PJ Washington, 33, 31, 29 minutes the last 3 games off the bench. And you talked about the quote from Clifford saying he's going to play a lot of minutes regardless of whether he's starting or come off the bench. So that should be the expectation. And one kind of thing to note, if Mark Williams misses again, the Hornets' pace has been at its highest this season when Mark Williams has been off the court. They've been at 102.7 pace. And that makes sense, right? They're running a lot of PJ Washington at center looks, like we saw when Mark Williams is out. So that's something to note, and obviously, makes the game environment a little bit more interesting and juicy if they're playing that up and down without Williams.
Yep, for sure. And we'll see a lot of minutes from Brandon Miller. Gordon Hayward's minutes have been pretty strong. He coming off a pretty good game. Nice start to him. But yeah, we'll see. And then, I think PJ could play quite a bit. And, this matchup, I think, is maybe even a little bit, not from like a shot profile standpoint, but from like they could use him a little bit more frequently because Vooch it's tough to play small against Vooch. Moving on to the Knicks, I think I got next. Yep, this is tough to do the hosting and the producing and analyzing all at once here. So I mean, there's not really much to say. There's a lot of stories about Quentin Grimes, whose minutes keep coming down and down and down. I mean, how safe are his minutes? What would they even do? Would they go to Josh Hart? Anything on the Quentin Grimes situation with just a really rough start to his season?
Yeah, I mean, the quotes were pretty illuminating that he would, be that kind of explicit with his frustration and how short a leash he has. And I understand, but he hasn't, really acquitted himself that well to earn those minutes too. And they do have options that they can go to. Obviously, Josh Hart is extremely valuable and will play a big role regardless. But yeah, I like 2.2, I think, % usage rate for Quentin Grimes last game, which, kind of not surprising that, when you kind of bottom out like that and only play 18 minutes, that you get a little frustrated. So I kind of get it. But yeah, I don't think his role is that safe. I don't think he's like, when's the last time he played like more than 22 minutes? Like, I think it might have been
a bit,
like a couple weeks ago against the Wolves. He played like 25. But it's been a while, right? And he's been like 18, 21 pretty consistently. I don't really see that changing. I mean, they have, IQ, Hart, Devin Chen, like they have other guys they can kind of look at.
Yeah, I mean, and this is, if they wanted to do it, this would be the spot, right? I mean, you need bigger wing defenders. Grimes is more of a guard kind of a player who he guards. As I said, guard a lot. But so right, like put Josh Hart in there and put him on the Jays. That makes a lot of sense. So I wouldn't be shocked if Quentin Grimes gets pulled here. We're obviously projecting him to be in, but something just to keep your eyes peeled. Maybe if you're quick to maybe get some Josh Hart overs if you want to be fast there. Yes, let's go to Boston.
Hold on. What's your percentage chance that you think a lineup change comes today?
I mean, it's still pretty unlikely. Tibbs is a stubborn man, so I'd say 15%, something like that. Yeah, are you about the same?
Yeah, about the same.
Yeah, cool. All right, so Celtics, Kristaps Porzingis went through parts of practice. He should be back, probably starting. I would expect a minutes limit on him. We have him at 28 minutes. How do you feel about Kristaps returning and how this impacts the rotation on the second unit and just overall?
Yeah, I have Kristaps at 27.5, so pretty conservative there. And we've kind of seen 3 guys like really benefit production-wise during the latest stretch that KP's been out. It's been Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Al Horford. Horford especially. I think Horford's added like 15 fantasy points per game to his average compared to before. So obviously lowers those guys' ceilings. I think Jason Tatum is the preferred option out of all the Celtics players today. And, I think another thing with KP like Duren, it improves the Celtics defense, especially around the rim. So just kind of Celtics at full strength. Their defense obviously incredibly stingy and it's not one you really want to take any pieces of against.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown's, it's not just like the usage, he's just shooting the ball so much better, and he's just in such a good rhythm. He's running out in transition more. That's really helped his game there. But yeah, I feel pretty good about that. And yeah, I think that I think 30s. You're probably more right in the 27.5 because I feel like 30 is like kind of off the table, and I could certainly see a 25 to be because it's Kristaps. The guy's
Yeah.
hurt all the time. So, moving on to the Wizards here, Daniel Gafford rolled his ankle, was able to return. Actually, put up a pretty good game as the Wizards. I mean, man, when the Wizards hang around, the fantasy goodness is just so there.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, expect him to be out there. Any other notes on Gafford?
Full participant in shoot around this morning, so would be pretty surprised if he doesn't go given that. And yeah, this is softest defense in the league. So amazing spot for Mikal Bridges, who's been on an absolute tear as of late, and Nick Claxton as well. So like those two, particularly on the Brooklyn side.
Yeah, those are the exact two guys I put for my great matchups and matchups column. So I totally agree with you there. So the Nets. Let's talk about Dennis Smith Jr. really quick. He had a really big minutes down the stretch as he kind of took away Cam Thomas's minutes. Do you think that was more matchup based, or how do you think that this guard situation fits? Do you see Dennis Smith Jr. cutting into Cam because they could use an extra wing defender, I guess, kind of at all times here. But how do you feel about this guard split? Mikel's like so safe, but besides him, how do you feel about the rest of the guards?
Yeah, I mean, two really good games from DSJ back to back in his return, right? So he's earning 20 minutes off the bench. So I think he's going to cut into Cam. Not really. I think Cam was clearly rusty. I think he was scoreless at half, I believe, and finished with like 6 points. So clearly not the Cam Thomas that we're expecting. I think that'll change in the future. So I think Cam's role right now is still relatively safe. If Cam, goes cold for another week or two, then maybe we can start having that conversation. Or I think Cam has done more than enough to earn the benefit of the doubt and not be, kind of on the hot seat in jeopardy of losing time to Dennis Smith Jr. after just a one bad game.
Yeah, we had an over on Cam, and it did not go well. It was dead at half. We're like, oh god, because he's usually we bet overs. Usually we do pretty well on him. But anyways, let's get to
what was he like 20 and a half, 21 and a half points?
21.5.
Yeah.
So didn't get that. Let's go to the Cavs. Big questionable on the slate is Evan Mobley. No history of he had like a knee-to-knee contact thing in 2021. That didn't, he missed a little bit of time in the game, but he didn't miss any games because of it. So not a guy with chronic knee issues. Any read on Evan Mobley's availability for this one?
Evan Mobley not at shoot around this morning, which makes me think he's kind of more like 40-60 to play at this point, given that. Would expect Dean Wade to be the one that steps in the starting lineup if Evan Mobley ends up missing with more minutes for Georges Niang and Tristan Thompson. A story in the second unit has been Craig Porter Jr. was amazing for a stretch there. He earned minutes. He was playing, great. But now he's getting totally phased out in favor of Isaac Okoro, who played a ton off the bench. I think he almost snelled, but he played 29 minutes, I think, off the bench the other day. So, I think if Evan Mobley misses, definitely interest on this Cavs side against a Heat defense that is not nearly the same without Bam Adebayo. So I think Donovan Mitchell becomes interesting, plus 9% usage rate bump this season without Evan Mobley and Karis LeVert on the court. And then Jared Allen obviously becomes really interesting against Orlando Robinson and no Bam. And we got a really good Max Strus revenge spot as well against the Heat defense that gives up a lot of looks from threes. They've always kind of been a funnel defense to the 3-point line. So I think there's Mitchell, Strus, Garland, Jared Allen, all on the radar for me if Evan Mobley ends up missing.
Yeah, I think Okoro would come off the bench, but he could play a lot here,
Yeah.
as you mentioned. I could see him, playing behind Wade, who may still be on a little bit of a minutes limit from returning from injury, because they definitely need the on-ball defense for Jimmy. And yeah, to your Miami point, which we'll get to in a second, their rim defense is the worst. They have the worst rim defense per possession. It's insane. After they were like the best rim defense last year, it's and even before Bam, they were slipping. But then the last handful of games, Bam's been banged up. They've been getting killed inside. It's too bad if Moby was playing, I would be jamming Cavs to cover this. I think they just smoke them. So let's get to the Heat here. Caleb Martin back in the starting lineup. No Haywood Highsmith, no Bam, as you mentioned. And Orlando Robinson comes up really big with a double-double in a really big win against the Raptors after they were kind of slipping, especially defensively, as we mentioned. But how do you see things shaking out for the Heat in this one?
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. Duncan Robinson's probable, so they'll start Lowry, Duncan, Jimmy, Caleb, and Orlando Robinson. So, I mean, those four guys outside of Lowry have been very solid the last two games. And we've seen Orlando Robinson 29 and 34 minutes in his last two starts. I think that's going to stay the same. He's going to see the vast majority of the minutes there at center. Caleb's minutes have been trending up regardless. He's played 35 and 31 in his last two games. So yeah, I think Jimmy, Orlando Robinson, Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson should all kind of be locked into their bigger roles with 30 plus minutes for pretty much all of them.
And I would add that this is I've got red alert on that probable tag. Duncan Robinson listed with a groin strain. So we know this team right on cue at 28 after. We know this team is. So yeah, I would keep an eye on that. I would definitely not assume that he's going to be in there.
Well, we did that with remember Gordon Hayward, I think, was that a strain he played. So, but you got to be prepared.
But then he missed a couple times after that too, though.
Yeah, that's fair.
He was sick after that. I got to get my AirPod to connect here, but we're good. Okay, let's go to the Warriors. And my God, one of the craziest stories I would say of the night was Jonathan Kuminga getting booted out of the rotation, and then he had a really bad run in the third quarter, timeout, and then he comes in and he saves the day. My God, Jonathan Kuminga. So yeah, and then Kerr kind of mentioned he left the door open and he could change the lineup here.
Yep.
So do you go with this double big lineup, which was, this lineup was so good last year, best lineup in the NBA among 100 and whatever lineups. It sounds like the lineup change is coming. Do you think so? And then if so, what is it going to be?
Yeah, those are two great questions. I think they're going to come, and Kerr mentioned that they might change from game to game too, matchup to matchup, right? And honestly, Kuminga should have been playing in this matchup anyways. This is a matchup where you need his athleticism, and not a shocker, he comes in and provides an instant spark with his athleticism, right? So I think Kerr's gonna be a little bit more mindful of these matchup spots, and the rope's been running out, man, on Clay and Wiggins. They've been so up and down. Their play has been generally well below expectations so far, so to where Kerr has to start looking at serious lineup changes and possibilities that either of them don't start. I would say, I think Sarge has been a guy that has, started in the past that they might look at. Moses Moody has always made, done a really good job impacting, winning when he's been on the court. So those are two guys that stand out for me. Maybe they go to Chris Paul. But yeah, I'm curious on what your takes are on, on this Warriors, rotation and lineup situation moving forward.
Yeah, I'm leaning Dario starts in place of Looney. I think Looney's just got to go. He just doesn't have the legs this year. And you're going against a team that has the fastest offense, they're a tenth of a second behind the Hawks now. So you need that pace. You need that athleticism. And to that point, I wouldn't be shocked if Kuminga starts. They really liked his on-ball defense. He was guarding Anthony Simons after he was kind of cooking them early in the third, and he slowed him down a little bit. But I wouldn't be surprised if they just outhouse to penthouse Kuminga. But I feel pretty confident that Looney's going to get booted. It's just a matter of if it's going to be Chris Paul, Kuminga, Dario, and I would kind of go reverse. I would go Dario, Chris Paul, Kuminga in that order. And then I think Looney's done. Do you agree with me that it feels almost like he's a huge dog to start again?
Yeah, I think he'd be definitely the most likely to go. So with Clay, there's a lot more that goes into that situation. It's a delicate situation. He's beloved by the fans. He's, a big part of the franchise overall, and he's an impending free agent, right? So I think there are implications just and something bigger than just benching him, that statement that makes. So I think it'll take, I don't know, a couple more weeks, I would say, of subpar play until we get there. I just don't think there's willing to make that big a change this early in the season. And you can always just play Moody similar minutes off the bench, mid 20s, upper 20s if you want and cut Clay's minutes that way, right? Like we've seen Wiggins, he wasn't closing for a lot of these games to start the year. Like you can just make those changes that way and not bench them. So I think we're probably a little bit of ways from Clay or Wiggins getting like benched, but could see like their minutes floors are not safe at all from night to night. I think like Draymond and Steph are pretty much the only two guys on this team with a safe minutes floor.
Well, yeah, to that point, Kerr was asked about the closing stuff, and he said the only one that is, quote, automatic is Steph.
Yeah.
And should note, just as we were talking there, Chris Paul got downgraded to questionable for illness tag. Pretty straightforward there. We would see more Moody. I think that would lock him in for sure, which he's kind of locked in anyways. And then we'd see Corey Joseph in there for the non-Steph minutes. If you want to add anything there, go for it. If not, we could.
No, and Podziemski should factor as well. So, yeah.
Cool. All right, moving to the OKC side of this. There's really not much to say on the injury stuff, but crazy minutes. The minutes are getting really cut for Josh Giddey. We've been projecting him like low 20s, and it felt like wrong. We had an under on his rebounds, and it crushed. But and then Lou Dort got really cut down here. So how do you see the wing minute shaking out for the OKC team when they certainly need the perimeter defense here?
Yeah, it just looks clunky out there with Giddey on the court, right? So I totally understand where they're coming from. And I was on like a month ago and was talking about, we were talking about like Jaden Ivey, how he fits in the future of the Pistons. And I also raised Josh Giddey with the Thunder, right? I just don't think it makes a lot of sense just given the depth they have. They have Casey Wallace, who I think is a kind of a better fit for what they need. Just so I think like if you're going to make a trade and can kind of consolidate their draft assets and make a play for, someone big, I think Giddey makes a ton of sense to include in that package. Just like Ryan's kind of been on the wall. Like it's probably not the best long-term fit, just given, what this team has.
Yeah, I was pretty down on Giddey coming in, and when the Zach LaVine trade stuff came out, I thought that was interesting because I think LaVine next to SJ would be so good. It's certainly not a Presti kind of move, but yeah, I think it'd be a really fantastic fit, those two guys together, and especially with their good perimeter defense players to go with them there. Anything else on OKC?
Not really. LaVine on the Pacers would be fun too. That's one.
Yeah. Oh man,
they would score like 150 points a game.
Yeah. Oh my god. Let's go to the Wolves here. Jordan McLaughlin upgraded with a knee injury. He's questionable here. I got the Gobert box. I thought I switched it. So yeah, Shake Milton sounds like he's kind of cooked here. His minutes have been coming down. I wouldn't be surprised if McLaughlin takes Shake's minutes or they cut it out entirely. How do you see McLaughlin's return impacting this team?
McLaughlin was out of the rotation pretty much before he got injured anyway. So he's like a guy for us that we didn't even blurb, like we didn't tweet. Like he's a fringe guy regardless, right? So this is a 30 team discussion, where you got to be deep to be thinking about Shake Milton and or Jordan McLaughlin. So I think like just given the extended absence, it probably makes sense for him, even if he's available, to not play initially and then get ramped up to a place where he is able to take on minutes. But yeah, I mean, Shake Milton's shooting has not been where it's been in the past, right? And it's been a consistent talking point among the Wolves beats that, okay, Shake Milton, eventually we got to have a conversation where he might need to, either get his minutes scaled back or get bumped out of rotation entirely, right? So it's not a big surprise. I think McLaughlin, maybe in like a week or two, when he's kind of, more fully up to speed, can make a push for that last rotation spot.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Shake's just been it's funny because like their whole rotation's been playing great except Shake. So it looks even worse with him playing poorly. So they're playing the Memphis Grizzlies, who have the laundry list of injuries. Number 1 rim defense against the number 2 rim defense. So certainly perimeter scoring will be the way to go if you did want to attack this game. Quite a bad game environment. Jake LaRavia is doubtful. Adjust. Do not adjust. But yeah, this rotation looks like it's pretty solid coming off an easy win against the Pistons. But anything you want to add on the Grizzlies?
Not really. I mean, LaRavia, another guy who's been out of the rotation. I don't think he factors in that much. I mean, he's doubtful now. They just have struggled immensely to get anything consistently on offense without John Morant. So Bane is the only guy you'd be interested in, but against a red hot Wolves defense that's been playing defense better than anybody, don't really have any interest in the Grizzlies overall.
Yeah, for sure. Should be pretty nasty. But Bane's been having some really soft matchups and just crushing them. I think he's hit his overs like 4 straight on like any over you hit. So he's been cooking here. To the Chicago Bulls, let's talk Alex Caruso, because I want to say about 4 games ago they talked about bringing down Alex Caruso's minutes. And then now they start him, and there was a comment from Billy Donovan saying they wanted to kind of sub him in shorter stints to not have as much time on the bench there. So how many minutes for Caruso here? Certainly, a matchup where they could use him to guard Devin Vassell. But how do you see the Caruso stuff shaking out? And then we could talk about Kilby White if you want. I mean, just the role is so big here. But the backcourt, how do you see this shaking out with Levine out for 3 to 4 weeks?
Well, 3-game win streak for the Chicago Bulls. And I think a lot of that has to do with Kobe White, like you said. Caruso's a guy, so he's perpetually injured. Like he's been dealing with one or multiple injuries for the entire season now, right? He's been playing through a bunch of stuff. In an ideal world, they'd be able to play him like 34, 35 minutes a game, right? The problem is he's so important to winning and so impactful that if he's able to stay on the court, they'll play him 29, 30 minutes easily, right? They've played him that in 2 of the last 3 games he's been healthy, right? So I think you can be a little conservative and, go like 27.5, 28.5, somewhere in that range, just to factor in like injury downside, because he definitely has aggravation risk. Like he got stepped on that toe and he didn't return, right? And that's definitely possible. Like he might be like the new Anthony Davis in terms of like in-game injuries, in terms when you see him grimacing or headed to the locker room, he's walking around with like so many different ailments right now. So I think if he's able to, they'll play him 29, 30 minutes. But I don't feel great about his chances of staying healthy. And that'd be like my big concern if I'm a team out there. And this has been talked about where he's like the Bulls' most valuable trade asset, just given how much he impacts winning and how much he costs. I'd just be worried about him making it through a full season at this rate, just given how hurt he's been.
Yeah, I was listening to Casey Johnson, perhaps one of the best beat writers on the planet, and his pod he's talking about like the value of Caruso and how many people, and like we all know this, he'd fit on any team. Name a team and he'd fit perfectly. So there's just value there. There's going to be like a bidding war. So I think he could seriously fetch 2 first-rounders if they did want to get off him, but maybe they don't. I mean, he's just that valuable. And maybe with the Caruso locker room stuff, you got to get the Anthony Davis like peek over and like Photoshop Caruso's face on there. I'm going to see what we get that tweet next time he goes back there. All right, let's go to the Spurs. The biggest curveball of the Wednesday slate was Devin Vassell starting, and then Jeremy Sohan getting benched for Jetty Osman of all people, really. So Pop certainly non-committal. It's Pop. What do you expect? But yeah, I think they're going to run this out there. You usually don't make a big change like this unless you're going to roll it out there for a couple games. And they went up against the Wolves, so tough matchup. So yeah, I assume you agree. And then anything else you want to add on the Spurs?
Not a ton. I think Pop was non-committal just to soften the blow on Sohan a little bit. But this has been coming for so long. I mean, their offense has been, in mud. When Sohan's been out there, just compared to even Trey Jones, like an actual point guard, and the amount of times that Wemby's been on the court and has been missed because Sohan, doesn't have that kind of court vision I've lost count at this point. And it's not really an indictment on Sohan. They've tried to force something on him that he wasn't equipped to do, right? So I think Sohan is still a really useful player, and he's just not a full-time point guard. He's a 3-4, and that's his natural position. He gets to play that a little bit more now. So, Point Vassell obviously just had 2 assists on, what was it, Wednesday, I think. But this is against a really, really stingy Wolves defense. So I'm pumped for Point Vassell. I mean, we've seen the playmaking chops develop over the last couple of years, and I think he's much more well equipped for this role than Sohan was. So pumped to see what he can do with this job.
Yeah, really efficient pick and roll handler. We saw that last year. That role really grew on him. I think it's going to be a good look for him. Really bad matchup here.
Mm.
The Bulls are the best pick and roll handler defense in the NBA. And you talk about the winning streak. I like almost I can't do it, but like I want to bet the Bulls today, just
Yeah.
because the Spurs don't have the spot up shooting that you need to beat the Bulls with their big 3-point funnel, most catch and shoot points allowed, most spot up points allowed. That's not really in the Spurs bag with this first unit. And Vassell is going to be handling. So he's really one of their best perimeter shooters. So yeah, keep an eye on Spurs threes overs if you want to kind of bet into that. Moving along here, let's go to the Houston Rockets. They are a little shorthanded in their front court. So we saw Jabari Smith go for 18 boards. Really nice win from them over OKC. They're on the road. They are like last year's Warriors because they are number 2 in home defense, and I think number 27 in road defense. So they're in Denver. They won their 2 home games against Denver, and then they lost the road game in Denver. Anything else you want to add on the Rockets with their short front court?
Jeff Green off the injury report, so he should be back for them to help out, with that decimated front court, like you said. So,
Yep.
He's been playing like 12 minutes off the bench per game, generally in a backup role. So he should be back on the rotation tonight.
And then do you think that they run Aaron Holiday out that much? We should shout him out really quick. He played freaking great because they were trapping Van Vliet so hard
Yeah.
that Aaron Holiday got going.
Yeah, more of a one game thing for me. Don't expect him to play. What did he play, like 27 minutes, I think, off the bench.
Yeah.
So he's been kind of more in that like mid-teens, upper teens. Maybe he gets around 21. I think he saw that a couple of games ago against Dallas. But don't think he'll see 27 like he did. Thunder.
Man, Amen Thompson getting iced by Aaron Holiday. Tough scene. Well, he's playing his brother, who's all.
Amen Thompson. Did you see his G League stat line the other day? Just out of control.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I think he put up like a triple double. He put up a massive line, and yeah, he's on an assignment right now, so he looks like he's coming back pretty soon.
Yeah. So Aaron Holiday gets iced, and then Aaron Holiday's doing the icing, and then somewhat surprisingly, Justin Holiday got iced here. I was a little bit surprised by that, but it's really a testament to Peyton Watson being back in Malone's good graces. Certainly Jamal Murray probably still on a little bit of a minutes limit coming off the ankle tweak, but certainly they'll start the same way. But how do you see Jamal Murray's minutes? And then Aaron Gordon also maybe a little bit of a soft minutes cap coming off a heel issue. Anything else in Denver?
Yeah, an upgrade for Jamal, who started out questionable the last couple of games. He's starting out probable now, so a really good sign for him that he's putting that. The comments from Malone a couple of games ago, he put that hamstring injury behind him completely. Now he's just dealing with the ankle, which is very promising for him. So 29 was a little bit more than I expected. He played 22 in his initial return, so him going all the way up to 29 in Wednesday's loss and then starting out probable now means I think there's a good chance he gets in the lower 30s today, in his start.
Yep. Moving on to the Kings. Not too much to add injury-wise. I will note their pace is way up. We saw them start pretty slow, but since De'Aaron Fox returned from his injury, they're second in offensive pace. They've been playing really fast again. Certainly led to some good game environments. Should mention Keegan Murray got dinged up here. Not on the injury report. If you want anything on him and how things will shake out with a tighter rotation in the last game.
I played Keegan overs against the Pels and they cashed, thankfully, but had a massive scare because he aggravated that back injury in the first half while guarding Brandon Ingram. Immediately grabbed at it, went to the locker room, but thankfully started the second half. Full participant in practice on Thursday, so he should be good to go here, not on the injury report like Mike mentioned, but this is something we'll continue to keep an eye on, right? He's had this like lingering like back irritation they're labeling it as, and he aggravated on Monday. So it's a good thing. They've been off since Monday. He's had a lot of time to kind of recover, get treatment, get that right. But just something to monitor on Keegan.
Yep, for sure. Those back things kind of, speaking of, I guess, back injuries, we could transition to Bradley Beal, who's coming closer now, but really shorthanded here. Obviously no Beal, but no Kevin Durant, no Grayson Allen. So I feel pretty confident that Josh Okogie is going to start there for Grayson, but the Durant one's tricky here. I think it's between two guys, in Keita Bates-Diop and Nazir Little. I don't have a strong take. I wrote Nazir Little because I'm a Nazir Little guy. And we've seen him sub in before KBD. That was my kind of rationale here. And they don't really need the big wing defense. I think Nazir is a little bit better matchup fit. But yeah, go ahead on how you think the Suns will replace two of their starters, or I guess three of the starters if you count Beal.
Yeah, I have Okogie obviously for Grayson Allen, and I have KBD in there right now for
Yep.
Kevin Durant. This doesn't mean that KBD is going to play more. I think Nasir might definitely play more minutes off the bench here, and his minutes have been ramping up. Being like you said, he subbed in before KBD the other day. So, but Little hasn't started a game this season. KBD's been a fill-in starter to this point. We kind of know coaches kind of like familiarity. So went with KBD over Little at the 4, and then we'll probably see that bench rotation be Jordan Goodwin, Watanabe gets back in there, and then Nasir Little and Drew Eubanks. It's probably like the best overall game environment on the slate. 2-point spread, 235 total. You mentioned the Kings. And like I think massive roles for Devin Booker and Eric Gordon here. Yusuf Nurkic in a good spot as well. And we've seen Devin Booker, like 2 of his 12 games this season, he's gone 40+% usage rate. And this might be another potential spot tonight. So I think we love. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like this is an incredible matchup. Incredible spot tonight in terms of pace and defensive efficiency.
Yeah, Booker got the cover boy. I think I've got I've been betting my cover boy overs. I think I got like 8 straight. So I'm going to have a high bar for Booker here. He's got some huge lines, but I think they deserve it. So hopefully he keeps it going. One player who basically hit his over in the first half is Luka Doncic. I can't believe they put Simone Fontecchio on him for that long. He had like 50 PRA at half. But the news here is no Grant Williams. Josh Green's going to miss some time. And then Dante Exum, Jason Kidd's new point guard reclamation project. He was really big in Neil Kina, but it sounds like he's kind of locked and loaded with the starting lineup. Played really well, I thought, here. Certainly easy to do that against a Jazz team. But besides Exum starting, I assume you agree. How else do you see this rotation shaking out?
Yeah, I mean, we saw pretty big minutes from Dante in the first half, and before it was at hand in the first half already. But he played 50 minutes in the first half. Derek Jones Jr. 16 and a half. So they were pretty good riding with those guys, and we saw Olivier, Max, and Prosper play 9 minutes in the first half. I think he was like a dark horse to start, but just given how well Exum played, he has a pretty good handle on that starting job tonight. I think no reason not to run it back, just given the results on Wednesday. So not a whole lot to add. Good spot again for Luka to go absolutely crazy, and Kyrie as well.
Yeah, against the Blazers here, who I'm surprised Malcolm got the Q tag. It seems like he's got a good chance to miss this one. So we saw Matisse Thybulle, who I thought had a chance to start, and I was almost going to put that for matchups on Wednesday, but got to do the watch, and we saw the practice tape that they were starting this lineup on the screen. But man, so I guess let's talk about Brogdon. He's hurt all the time. What's the likelihood of him playing? We can talk about the rest after that.
Yeah, I think 35% that he plays. There's no reason for him to push it here, and he got ruled out pretty quickly last game and was hobbling. I'd be pretty surprised if he ended up playing tonight.
Yeah, what are they doing? I can't believe. I guess it's just a nonsense Q tag. But let's talk a little Scoot. Scoot subbed in late third, and then
remember some context to back it up real quick. Remember they labeled Anthony Simon questionable before they rolled him out for like a month. Oh yeah, probable.
He was probable. Yeah, I remember that.
With that thumb injury, I think. Yeah. So this is the same Blazers team, so not surprising.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that because he had a probable tag, then he got downgraded to questionable, and then like an hour later, I think Woj broke it that he was going to miss 4 to 6. But let's talk Ant really quick. Oh my God, Shuckies! He had I think 14 shots in his first 13 minutes. He was just firing out there. I love Ant today. I love him any day. His handling role was huge. A lot of pick and roll base offense was like their whole thing. He's going to have a monster, and that was with Brogdon in the first half. He's going to have a huge. I'm probably just betting his overs. Like I think Ant's going to play 30, 35 if this game's close. So big, and the Blazers keep covering. They keep covering the spread. So if you've been betting them to cover, they've been doing pretty well. But and then Shaden, really big ball handling role. Scoot played off the ball a bunch. did close. I don't know if he would have closed though, because Kamara was in foul trouble. Jabari Walker fouled out early. Duop Breath was in foul trouble. So yeah, just anything on these secondary players. If you want to add anything on Sharp and Ant as well.
Yeah. So my God, like 37 plus minutes for Ant in his return. Like we got the comments from Chauncey pregame that no minutes limit, but I did not imagine 37 minutes in the return. So, we've hit on this multiple times, kind of talking about this Blazers team and like team previews and stuff that, okay, even if they're in blowouts, the minutes floors for some of these guys are still pretty safe just because they're so thin on talent and options. And they just will let these guys run into the fourth quarter down 25 because they just need reps, right? I mean, they don't need to go out and try to tank because they're at a talent deficit regardless, right? So even if this one gets a little out of hand, I still feel pretty good about like Ant's minutes floor, even if they're down like 25, 30. So we've seen these spots like Chauncey just lets them play, deep in the game. So I want to get your take on Scoot particularly. Give me a handicap on his chances of starting today versus Matisse, and then give me a range on his minutes.
I'd say 20%, maybe even lower on the chance he starts. I feel like I said, I almost thought they were going to start Matisse over Brogdon in the last game, so I wasn't surprised to see him start the second half. So I feel pretty good about that. He got lucky, man. Like we had an under on him, and it shouldn't have been sweaty, but all the foul trouble and the Brogdon injury, we're like, oh boy, we gotta sweat this thing. But I would say 16 to 24 would be. So I'd be like low 20. I don't think he's got a ceiling, man. Ant's gonna play a lot. Sharp's gonna play a lot. You can't play like too many guards. So and they need the guard defense. So I would say I'd put his number at like 21.
Chances that he is a long-term starter for this team at any point this season, like not just
pretty high. Pretty high. I mean, it's the Blazers, so I would say probably like 60%.
Okay.
That he's like, I'm talking like March,
Yeah, I'd say just generally my impressions are I'm a little surprised at how little he's being played, and
he's terrible. He's been awful.
Yeah,
he's like arguably the worst player in the NBA right now. Like high volume player. He's been playing so. He had like he was over 3. Like 2 of his threes were bricks. Like one hit like the top of the backboard on a wing 3. One like barely hit the rim. His shot is just not good right now. It's hurting. I will add though, his passing's been pretty good. He had a couple really nice passes in this game, but the shot making and the defense and the mistakes on defense are really hurting his minutes.
My counter is that you're not going to be good regardless. So why are you not? 100%. Why just not playing? Like how is he going to get better if he's going to get better with reps, right? So just let him play through this stuff. I agree on how bad he's been though.
Yeah. Another team that's been bad, the Utah Jazz. Trivia question, perhaps the easiest trivia question to set you up. Do you know what lineup has the worst defensive rating among lineups with 40 minutes? It's obviously the one that's on the screen here.
Yep.
I think they're 148 defensive rating over like a 4-game sample. But my God, man. Well, the good news is they are going to get Jordan Clarkson and Kelly Olynyk back. The tank looks to be on here. They want to play Taylor Hendricks. There's been some push from the front office to play him more. Yep. But how does Jordan Clarkson and Kelly Olynyk coming back affect this rotation?
I mean, we've had looks at this team already with those guys in, so I don't think it's like a big surprise or anything we need to get into. Obviously, Agbaji goes back to the bench with Clarkson back, and Fontecchio would probably get another start with Lowry still out. But my biggest question here is like, how much longer are we going to do this? Like you're at 7 over.
My God,
Walker Kessler thing.
That had to be it. That had to be it, right? Like,
there's no way. Like, what?
Yeah.
How many more games? Like, so we saw this like See, we saw this thing with, I think Matt Bagley started the first game back and
Mhm.
Duren came off the bench, right? And that was just like a one-time thing because Duren was like limited with the minutes, right? I just assume that the first game Kessler came back and came off the bench, the next game he would be starting, but it just hasn't
Yeah.
happened since in year
Yep.
sevens stayed in the starting lineup. I don't know. Yeah, I honestly have no idea when it's gonna end.
I think it has to happen today, right? I mean, you just gave 147 and mentioning that this lineup is the worst lineup in the NBA. Like, it's gotta be now, right? Like, what are we doing here? And he had the quote of the night. He said it was
Yeah,
a masterpiece of dog bleep.
yeah,
Just that's all. And I think Will Hardy's a really good coach. I really do. Like, what do you think was going to happen, man? Like, you're putting
yeah,
Simone Fontecchio with a drop big behind him and Omer Yurtseven against one of the most deadly pick and roll handlers on the planet. Like, you're going to get wrecked.
yeah.
So I didn't get that. Clippers, on the other hand, they're playing quite well here. James Harden is kind of coming along here. Minutes, drives, all his roll stats are kind of up. The defense has been there for the Clippers. Not really
Mhm.
much to add on the injury report. But I guess the minutes slash rotation stuff was Russ cooked.
Yep.
Um, got out minuted by Kobe Brown.
Mhm.
That's not great for Russ, but anything you want to add on those guys?
No, I think it's just become abundantly clear when you watch the Clippers that you cannot play Harden and Russ together at the same time.
Hmm.
They're too ball dominant. They just don't fit. And they've been playing better as of late, cutting Russ's minutes, and
Hmm.
separating the two a little bit more. I mean, it sucks. Like, I don't enjoy seeing Russ getting, cut down like this. And he's been a great team player and great about this, kind of through it all. But yeah, I think that's been the solve. That's kind of got them a bit on track.
Yep. Yeah. Brody is he's taking a nap right now. My dog Brody, but Russ is gonna get some naps on the bench. All right. We did it under an hour, sort of. Anything you want to promote for you guys? Got any? You get the playoff NFL thing going on? Anything you want to promote while you're on?
No, just check us out at Underdog Fantasy. We're doing obviously the news at Underdog NFL, Underdog NBA. We got playoff best ball contests going right now. We got the live final in Miami this weekend at the Dog Bowl. That'll be fun
Are you
to
going?
see. No, I'm in my apartment in LA, but yeah, it should be a great event. So yeah, we're running pick 'em and daily BRs every day. So
Yeah,
you know the drill.
I love the little news flashes you guys have when you put out.
Yeah.
What brilliant marketing, to have the news baked in there. That's awesome. So shout out to you guys for that. And yes, support the people, support us, including us. We like each other. I saw someone had talked about the lack of likes on this. Hit the like button. As Dink would say, you could smash it, you could touch it, you could do it. I mentioned you could Eskimo kiss it if you want to use your nose. Whatever it takes to get that like button pushed, we would appreciate it. And then also, check us out on the establishedrun.com/NBA. Running good in the prop streets. I had a nice little 3-0. I was clamoring to put D'Angelo Russell under assists on the card, even though it didn't meet our EV thresholds, but we got it
Yeah.
on there. Easy win on that one. So
Nice.
we're at 70 units. Feeling pretty good about that. So yeah, check us out at the subscribe tab over there. And then yeah, I'll do the Dink. Feed the algorithm. Helps feed our families. Num 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 num. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you, fan. You
Yep.
guys have a great day. Enjoy the big slate today.